Hey everybody, welcome to another GMG review. Today I'm taking a look at a really cool little supplement that came for free in the Christmas issue of White Dwarf, which is Necromunda Gang Raids. So this is the December 2019 White Dwarf, and as such, it's the holiday season, and it's packed full of freebies. And one in particular really stood out, and it's, well, two actually. You get a tactics card called A Present for You. Play this card when your opponent activates one of their fighters, even if the fighter is activated as part of a group activation. Send it to the 3-inch blast marker on the fighter who has just activated, then roll a scatter die and a d6 to see where the marker moves to. If it hits rolled, it stays where it is, and then roll a d6 to see what kind of grenade it is. It's a concussion, flash, fear, or gas. So it's not lethal, but basically someone hums a grenade at one of the gang members and they have to hot potato it. It's just holiday themed, obviously. It's a present for you. And I thought that was funny. But you also got this complete supplement. It's a 10-page supplement for playing, I guess what I would describe as almost like a combat patrol style game of Necromunda. The design to be played in about 30 minutes on 4 to 6 tiles in Zone Mortalis. And what's cool about them is they're all like heist missions and funsies, sort of like minor skirmishes. So it's the stuff that happens when the leader's not around and the idiot gang members get off and get into trouble. I really like that about this, and I thought it was worth doing a quick review of. If you haven't picked up that issue, it's worth scrounging for if you're a Necromunda fan. Of course, if and when they do a Necromunda annual, I don't know if they're going to do. They did one for Kill Team, one for Warcry. I don't know if it's going to get an annual. This might just get included at some point in one of the future supplements, but this is a really clever, quick narrative supplement for playing like in between games. And I'm pretty jazzed about it. You can include it in a campaign, and there's some special rules generically for gang raids. So the first one is bottle tests. You only roll a d3 instead of a d6 when you play a gang raid mission, because obviously there's not as many people on the board. Most of them have customer random selection between like 4 and 6, so not a lot of people. And it's beneath my notice. Very rarely do gang leaders ever take part. They're typically not there. And even champions are restricted to 1. So if you're gonna have random selection, what you would do is take the leader card out, take all of the champions, deal out 1 champion randomly, then shuffle it into the deck with the remaining crew members, and then shuffle out your random selection. So you might not even get the champion that you want. You're gonna get a random champion that shows up with some of the fools. And I really like this. What it puts in my head is all of those, like, I don't know if you ever watched the HBO Band of Brothers show or like any of those anthology shows. There was always like the major conflicts, and there was like the stuff that happened in between the major conflicts. This feels like those like little untold stories, those like foxhole stories that kind of happen in between the main action and set pieces. That was really cool. You also don't include hangers-on, brutes, or hired guns. They're not part of this, the hijinks the gang goes and gets up to. Actually, you know what it makes me think of too is all the stuff that Ron would get up to in, Bragg and Trooper Bragg and what's his name? The old guy, the sniper guy, not McVenner. Bragg and McCall? No, Bragg and I can't remember his name. But those folks, they would get up to these like hijinks on the side, basically. Then it's a minor affair. Gang raid scenarios are small conflicts. As such, territory and rackets cannot be staked on a gang raid scenario. Delivering a blow to their opponent's pride is enough of a reward. So deployment in gang raid scenarios follows the standard as explained on 119 in the Necromunda rulebook. The only exception is that fighters may not use infiltrate. If they have the skill, it's not used. Unless otherwise stated, there's no loot casks in gang raids either. And so there are 4 missions. Like this is a fairly complete supplement. There's 4 different missions, and all of them have like a really strong story theme. So this is daylight robbery. You're literally trying to break into a vault. So there's a stash vault with somebody's stash in it. Part of the gang's gotten word on it. They've gone off on their own to basically like steal it and bring it back. So it's like a minor. This is the Sons of Anarchy stuff that like Tig would go and do with Happy. I didn't watch all of Sons of Anarchy, but in that show, because I do love Canadian, like when I see a Canadian actor in a US show, I love the actor that played Tig. What's his name? Oh geez, I can't remember his name now. He's in a bunch of different Canadian television as well. Oh, he's in Goon. I can't remember his name. Someone's gonna shout at me in the contents right now. But he talks to Happy, who's like a real life biker and like not an actor. He's like, I love doing jobs with you, Happy. You make me seem normal. I always think of that. This daylight robbery thing totally makes me think of Tig and Happy in Sons of Anarchy. And so yeah, so you're gonna play, it gives you a stash layout basically, and then you're gonna use random selection 6 to bring people in. Attacker gets 2 tactics cards. So one side is basically defending their vault, and the other side's having to try and claim it. And you're trying to break in and go through them. For the attackers, there's only one way out, through the opposing gang. The scenario does not take bottle tests for the attacker, and they can't voluntarily flee. And then of course if you have an arbitrator, the arbitrator can put in Gilder Watchman if you want, or Enforcer Patrol. The Mercator Storehouse Heist. Once again, you're trying to find an auction item that a Mercator is trying to sell. This is like your, what's it, the Jade Falcon or the, what's the other one? I can't remember. There's a classic movie about that. Something Peregrine. Something Peregrine, the Jade, no, it's not Jade Falcon, it's something like that. It's the Green Stone something. Amethyst Rockstar. No, that's an album by Saul Williams. But yeah, no, same sort of idea. This is custom 4, so you get to choose 4 people, including 1 champion, basically, to go and try and pull this off. And there's a defense server just wandering around guarding the item, who's pretty hardcore. He's got a grab gun, cervical, and light carapace armor with 360 vision. He's not to be messed with. Toughness 5, strength 5, 2 attacks. Defense servitor counts an injury roll. Result is a flesh wound, so you can only be taken into action by reducing the toughness to 0. In addition, the defense servitor cannot be pinned on how you pass any cool tests. So you can't take them out of action except by reducing their toughness to 0. So you have to give it 5 flesh wounds before you can kill it. Madness. As an Overwatch routine. I do love the rare goods. The gang that secured the auction item rolls D66 on the table that falls and then sees what it is. It could be a useless tat. So D 3 times 10 credits. Value to somebody, D6 times 15. Arms trade, a single weapon with a rarity of legality of 10 or lower. Exotic war gear, a piece of war gear not including stats, items, or beasts with a rarity of legality of 10 or less. A valuable haul or a rare find, 12 or less. The status item chosen is Mastercraft weapon. The total cost cannot be more than 125. I thought that was really cool. And then clandestine rendezvous. So you're meeting with, basically you're breaking up a meeting between one rival gang and their like informant cop. So there's a random corrupt enforcer on the table that they're meeting with, and then you go and like bushwhack them and try and like I guess like inform on them. And then the guys trying to get safety. The defender's goal is to get the corrupt enforcer to safety. If they end within 1 inch of an edge of the battlefield, it's sort of an end phase. They can leave or move from the battlefield, and it ends when they're escorted off the battlefield. So they deploy in the middle, and you deploy around them and try and keep them from getting off, which is pretty cool. And you basically gain rep from doing it as a reward plus experience. That one, it's got like a training day vibe to it. I love the idea of like the corrupt cop basically getting tracked down by the mob. And then finally a bar brawl. I think this is awesome. It's 2 tiles. It's custom selection. What is it? There's no tactics. Custom selection 4, and you just start fighting. But there's also hive patrons on the table. So there's D3 plus 3 hive dwellers. For all intents and purposes, the hive dwellers are treated like fighters and use rules for movement, stray shots, and being engaged. If they're reduced to 0 wounds, they're automatically taken out of action. No injury dice. And then they do not activate normally. Instead react to the actions of nearby fighters. The hive dwellers are triggered by the following actions. If they make a fight action within 3 or end a move within 2, then they get triggered basically. Roll a die. On a 1 or 2, oh yeah, the patron picks up a piece of furniture and takes a single shoot action. It's Ballistical 5+, strength 2, 1 damage. They just hum a chair at you, basically. If you get too close or you fight. Okay, take it easy. They don't do anything on a 3 or 4. And then 5, 6, I'm getting out of here. They flee and remove them from the battlefield. Unless triggered, they just watch the fight happen. So if you get too close to them, they either hum a table at you or take off or just watch. And then in the battle, if somebody has nobody left, the battle ends. You go to the death, basically. And if someone has models left on the table, they're victorious. And so for the campaign, you get rewards, you get XP. Leader of the victorious gang gets an additional XP whether or not they took part in the battle. And the leader can take part in this one. That's the other thing, is the leader can actually show up in this one because, you know, he might be drinking. But you don't get nobody gets any weapons, basically. No ranged weapons, grenades, or unwieldy close combat weapons they possess can be used in this scenario. You can use anything else. If you don't have a melee weapon, you're automatically equipped with a maul because you pick up like a bar stool and table leg, which is great. You're also both drunk, so both gangs' fighters consume several rounds before the trouble started. No fighter can take part in a group activation. In addition, everyone's suffering from the following effects. Each fighter has their movement, weapon skill, and skill characteristic reduced by 1, but they auto-pass cool checks. And on a 4+, from the second turn onward, they're no longer intoxicated because they sober up when they start to fight. That's great. And this one looks super fun. I have some Necromunda games coming up in the near future. I think we're going to play a couple of these going forward just to like have some like hijinks in between rounds because I think this would be fun to just try out. And that's it. So just a little 8-page scenario. What a great little add-on to the holiday season White Dwarf. There's a couple other mini games in there, but this one really stood out as like one. It's actually like a separate booklet from the box. And it feels like a full supplement. Like it really does what it sets out to do and just gives you some like narrative hijinks for your gangs to get up to. That is the soul of Necromunda to me, is not just like what happens during the game, but the silly stories that come out of it and the more silly situations you can put people in. Because, like, honestly, your leader Necromunda, they're cool, but they're never as cool as the ganger or the champion that like rises up into the ranks and becomes really cool. Like in our last Necromunda campaign, my leader died like 2 games in or second game in, and Blaster Master and the champion took over the gang and like became a gang leader. And the same with Chris's like warband. His leader also died and a champion rose up through the ranks. And to me, this defines that. This is that kind of like cool sort of like narratively driven thing that is, I think, a great way of playing Necromunda, and I'm really stoked about it. This might be one of the coolest expansions of the year, and it's a free gimme in White Dwarf. So if you haven't had a chance to go pick it up, I highly recommend it. If you're a Necromunda fan, this looks like a ton of fun, and a great way of playing some games like in between games, or if you just don't have time for a full game, like playing a little pickup game and adding a bit of story for like your favorite character that's in Necromunda. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this quick GMG review of Necromunda Gang Raids. Big thanks for watching. Next time, I'm Ash. Happy gaming. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below so you get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirts, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Desperate Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course I will continue doing it as long as I can.